All right, bro, sis, here's the situation. Maybe you want a Nikon ZR or ZF. Maybe you already own one or the other, right? And maybe you looked and saw that Nikon doesn't have the lenses that you want, right? Or maybe you already own a bunch of Sony glass and you don't want to have to go buying a whole bunch of Nikon glass now, right? Well, let me show you something. Right here, I have the Nikon ZF with a Sony 300mm f2.8 gangsta mode with a 1.4 times teleconverter. And let's just see if this bad boy still works. Oh yeah, we in there. In this video, I'm gonna show you all about this and tell you how you can do this with your Nikon. Let's go. Yo, what up? It's your man with the tightest of shirts, Tight Shirt Terry Warfield. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. Remember to be thankful for your freaking life today because you did not have to have it. So yeah, in this video, we're gonna talk all about how you can mount Sony glass onto your Nikon camera. Now, fundamentally, this works for all Sony glass as long as it's E-mount and all Nikon cameras, so it works for like your ZR, your ZF, your Z6 Mark III, your Z8, your Z5 Mark II, your Z9, so on and so forth, okay? Now, we're gonna use a little adapter to make this happen, and they actually make a ton of adapters that will allow you to do this. Now, adapters are not anything new. Adapters have been around for a freaking long time, and basically what adapters will allow you to do is take a camera and mount glass from another manufacturer on your camera, even though they're not supposed to work or they're not supposed to match up. And that's basically what we're doing in this video. So I'm using an adapter. I'm sorry I'm getting tongue-tied. It's freaking cold out here and it's windy. Hope y'all can hear me, but I'm using an adapter made by Newer. And this adapter, basically it mounts to the camera's mount and then the lens mounts to the adapter, right? Now, they make a couple of these mounts. They may have one made by Viltrox, Megadapt makes one. The one, like I said, I'm using is made by Newer. I don't know if they make the one that I have now. I think they stopped making it if I'm not mistaken. However, I will leave links in the description to all of the adapters that are out there right now, at least that I know about, and I'll make sure the prices and all that stuff are always updated. So make sure y'all check them links down there. Yes, they're affiliate links, but you're gonna buy them anyway, so you might as well just go ahead and use the links in the description and support the freaking channel. You know what I'm saying? The good thing is because these adapters have electronic contacts on them, that means that they can pass through information. That means they can pass through autofocus information. So yes, all of my autofocus and everything still works on here. I'm autofocusing on the car right now and it's detected the car and it's tracking it. Bam, photo taken. Couple quick examples real quick. Subject detection and tracking and all of that stuff, it works as you're seeing it right here on the screen. Now, does it work as good as a Nikon camera paired with a Nikon lens would work? No, it's not as fast, it's not as sure of itself, but again, the tracking and the subject detection still works. So the fact that you can use Nikon glass, but also you can use any existing Sony glass, or if you want to buy new Sony glass, whether it's made by Sony or third parties, the fact that you can still get acceptable performance using one of these adapters, but you can use any other glass that you want to, friggin' fire. And this works in photo and video. This also means that all of the EXIF data, meaning the f-stop, the shutter speed, all of that stuff is passed through from the camera to the lens and vice versa. So it's a two-way street when it comes to communication. Now, obviously, there are some caveats, which we're going to talk about in this video, but there's one other thing that I want to tell you about when it comes to Nikon cameras and adapted lenses that are manual, but you got to wait to the end of this video to check that out. So let's move on. All right, so I've been using this adapter for what, like 8 months, and I've used a ton of different Sony glass on here, and it's given me pretty much no trouble. I actually talked about this adapter in my Nikon ZF long-term review, so I'll leave that video linked at the end of this video. So right now I have the 16 to 35mm f4 PZG on my Nikon ZF using this Newer adapter. And this is a power zoom lens. So a few things I've noticed, right? First of all, although Nikon cameras, if you have a Nikon power zoom lens, have power zoom, I can't get it to communicate with this lens, obviously, right? And I've went through the settings and all that stuff to see if I can program some of the buttons and stuff to operate power zoom, and it just doesn't even recognize that it's not a Sony camera, I'm sorry, a Sony lens attached to it. Now, obviously, if you rotate the ring on the lens and you use the lever, it'll still zoom by itself, it'll still power zoom, but I can't control it with the camera. The next thing is stabilization. Now, the only lens that I've tested with stabilization on this camera that's made with Sony, I haven't tested out Tamron or Sigma lenses that might have stabilization built into it on this camera. Using this adapter, the only one I've tested is the Sony 300mm f2.8 gangsta mode, okay, which has stabilization built into it. So this Nikon ZF, as all other Nikons do, have digital stabilization as well as physical stabilization. Digital stabilization in here works without a hitch no matter what lens you put on it, okay? However, If you put on a stabilized Sony lens and you turn on stabilization in the lens, it disables the physical stabilization menu inside the ZF. However, if you turn off stabilization on the lens, then the menu for physical stabilization or mechanical stabilization inside the ZF starts working again. There's some other trade-offs that I really need you to think about before you start using these, but we're gonna talk about those after we talk about today's sponsor, Artlist. Let's get it. All right, y'all, I wanna have a quick conversation about AI. And before you get to huffing and puffing, I know a lot of y'all have a nasty taste in your mouth about AI, and I totally get it. There's a lot of places out there misusing AI. I mean, of course, not us creators, right? But I totally get it, right? However, I do think we're at a very pivotal point in time where AI is here to stay whether you like it or not. And as creatives, I think we need to make a choice on either we learn how to grasp it and add it to our workflow and see the type of value that it can give us, or we get left behind, right? And I don't want y'all to get left behind. Now, AI can get confusing. There's a ton of different models, ton of different websites all over the place, but I talk about Artlist all the time on this channel. And honestly, Artlist is the AI hub now. So they have all of the different models on there now, that VO3, Sora 2, Kling, Klux, like everything that you need on there, Nano Banana, like I'm probably forgetting some, but they have everything under one roof, so you don't have to go fishing around. I'm gonna use this as a challenge to you. If you haven't tried out any of these AI tools, there's a link down there in the comment section for you to go try it out for yourself and just see how powerful these tools are and see the different ways that you can create things and add to your workflow. And you're probably gonna want more after you try it out because it's really, really good. It's really powerful. And Artlist right now is having a huge holiday sale, but it's for a limited time only. So they actually have two plans. They have AI built into them. They have an AI plan and they have something called the Artlist Max plan. Now, the AI plan gives you all the AI tools, so AI video, AI photo, AI voiceover, and the Artlist Max plan gives you that, plus everything else that Artlist has to offer. So the music, the sound effects, the LUTs, the plugins, all of that stuff is on there. And right now, the AI plan is 40% off, y'all, and the Max plan is 20% off. And if you use the links down there, I could also give you another 2 free months on top of an annual plan. So right now is the time for you to go try it out. Again, as creatives, we need to make a decision to start learning how to utilize AI, and this is a perfect opportunity for you to do so. So thank you, Artlist, for sponsoring this video. Let's get on with it. So yeah, being able to mount Sony glass on my Nikon ZF is pretty freaking fire, okay? And there's probably other adapters out there that you can get to mount other types of lenses. Neither here nor there. Right now, I have my 24 to 70 millimeter f2.8 gangsta mode, the Mark II version from Sony, right? And on this lens, there's a switch that says smooth and tight. Now, typically, to remove any lens from any camera, there's a button that you have to press, and then you rotate the barrel of the lens. But let me show you something real quick. If I have the lens set on tight and I turn it, check that out. So I didn't even have to press the freaking button to get this lens off. That's not supposed to happen. Now, if I put it on smooth, I can go ahead and do kind of like a crash zoom thing, but it still rotates a little bit and I can still take it off that way. So the point I'm trying to make is, once you introduce anything in between the camera and the lens that's not supposed to be there, that's a potential point of failure. This actually happened to me out while I was shooting, and I almost dropped the freaking lens. And this doesn't happen with all of my Sony lenses. It only happens with one other one, but it does happen. My point is, these adapters can make life difficult for you when it comes to being able to mount lenses, take lenses off. And I don't know if that's something that you want to deal with or not, because today, if it would have actually happened, I would have dropped probably my camera and my lens. So that's something that you need to be mindful of. The second thing that you got to be mindful of is, a lot of times when you use these third-party things on your camera, Viltrox is an example that I used to run into all the time. Whenever I would use a Viltrox lens on my Sony camera, it will cause my Sony camera to freeze up, meaning I would have to pull the battery out, take the lens off to get the camera to come back to life. And that's something that people still struggle with the Viltrox version of this adapter. So I'm not saying that Viltrox is specifically the problem. My point is, anytime you're using a third-party adapter in a way, you could potentially run into electronics issues, communication issues, so on and so forth. I would strongly recommend you not do a paid gig with an adapter or a lens that doesn't belong on your camera, because sure, it might work majority of the time, but what if you get out in front of your client or something like this happens and your lens falls and now you can't finish the gig or something like that? Or if you choose to, at least make sure you have a backup in the case that something goes wrong. The other negative thing about using these adapters is, remember, these are not officially supported by the lens maker or the camera maker. So although most of them will pass through electronic data such as like aperture value and shutter speed and all that stuff, most of them won't communicate anything else when it comes to like stabilization. They won't communicate anything else when it comes to lens correction. So Nikon cameras, just like every other camera out there, where you use a Nikon lens on there, it will compensate for that lens's imperfection. So distortion, vignette, stuff like that. Sony cameras do it, Fuji, all of them do it, right? But the problem is, when you put on a lens that doesn't belong to the camera, that communication doesn't happen effectively, right? So, example, the ZF has vignette compensation, right? And because it can't detect what lens is being mounted on there, it doesn't know how much vignette compensation to apply. Now, fortunately, with this camera, you can still go in there and manually dial it in, and it'll still apply the vignette compensation. However, when it comes to like distortion, that 16 to 35 millimeter f4 I showed you earlier in this video, that lens is awful when it comes to barrel distortion and wide angle distortion. But the Sony camera will correct for it, right? Well, when we mount that on the Nikon camera, the Nikon doesn't correct for any of that. In fact, it still leaves the option there to adjust it, but it doesn't actually apply the effects to the image or the video. So that means with that lens, if I want to use it on this camera, I got to go in Lightroom afterwards or DaVinci afterwards and apply my own profile corrections. So all I'm saying is, yes, being able to use these adapters and your favorite Sony lenses on your Nikon cameras, it works, but it does have caveats that you need to be mindful of. The next thing and the last thing is I want to show you what happens when you put a manual focus lens that has digital contacts on your Nikon ZF using an adapter, because it's actually pretty fire. Not just the ZF, the Z8, the Z9, all of Nikon's cameras. Let me show you. All right, so this is the Voigtlander 50mm f1.2. This is a fully manual lens. This is made for Sony E-mount. And yes, it looks vintage and all that stuff. I actually have a whole video on this lens also. However, this lens has electronic contacts. Now, they do make a Leica version of this also. The Leica version does not have electronic contacts, but what makes this so powerful is, again, it's got the contacts built into it, and so does the adapter. So it can pass through all of the EXIF data and all of that other good stuff. But this is where it gets even better. All right, sorry about the video quality. So I have a image of myself on the TV, and I'm using this manual focus lens that obviously right now is not in focus. But if I go ahead and turn the focus ring and pull myself into focus, it's gonna jump automatically to my eye because it saw it. So even though it's not autofocusing, it's still showing me that, hey, it sees my eye, and it also confirms green once it's in focus. Now, listen, if I want to punch in and check critical focus, this is what I mean. All I have to do is press this button right there, and it jumps right in to the eye where it detected a subject. So I'm gonna press this, and it's not gonna jump over there. It's not gonna jump over there. It's gonna jump right to my eye, which is so fire. It makes using these older vintage style lenses, especially adapted, so much easier because you can nail focus so much easier, especially if you put on like focus peaking and all that stuff. It's so freaking game changing. So my friends, that is how you mount and use your Sony E-mount glass on your freaking Nikon camera. No matter if it's a ZR, ZF, Z5, Z6, Z7, Z8, or Z9, principally, it all works the same. I will leave a link in the description and also the pinned comment to all the gear I talked about that I use in this video, and also to any other adapters that are out there. I'll leave the link for those also, and also those prices will stay up to date, so make sure you check those links for best prices. And yes, they are affiliate links, but you're gonna buy it anyway, so you might as well support the channel. And also make sure you hit that link in the description and get your 2 months free on the Artless plan. Whether you like it or not, AI is here to stay. So as creatives, it's best that we get on it and learn how to use it and leverage it to our advantage. And now you got the opportunity to use all of them on one freaking platform. So make sure you hit that link down there below. Okay, so that's it. Till next time, I'm out of here. Tight shirt, Terry Warfield. Peace and chicken grease. Much love, y'all. Peace.